Good evening. I'm Mike Conklin, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the Town of Plymouth's Meet the Candidates event, which we have been holding for several years now. This year, our town elections will be held on March 12th from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. at the Plymouth Elementary School, the usual place. And the election is going to be followed by the town meeting the following day, March 13th. The ballot and warrant, I believe, are posted on the town's website. Val Scarborough is also here to help, especially to handle any questions which come in from those of you who are either here or watching on TV and put something in through there. Val is also going to watch the clock and, as I like to say, administer punishments to candidates who exceed their allotted time, and she's going to explain how that's going to work now.
Yeah, what I've got is 3 pieces of paper. The green one means you're within your time slot, which for introductions will be 3 minutes, and for answers to questions will be 2. If you hit the 30-second mark, the yellow goes up, and when your time is up, the red goes up. Pretty simple.
And then you get escorted out. By Val. Before we get started, though, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank Kathy Kelsey, who actually, again, took the initiative to get this thing started, and she took care of the logistical arrangements, which are probably the hardest part of the whole thing. We'd also like to recognize Dan Salzer, of course, the genie behind PBTV, who has made the arrangements to have this event broadcast, I understand, via YouTube, I think. And of course, Scott Whedon, the town manager, who provides the assistance we need from an insider. And all of them have been a big help, and we're grateful to them. For informational purposes, we have unchallenged elections for town clerk, and the candidate is Amy Lee, who's here tonight. For library trustee, the candidate is Charlene Whitman, and for cemetery trustee, the candidate is Tara Bryson. We have 3 candidates for 2 seats on the school board. They are Amy Lee, who's doing double duty tonight, Jennifer Deloge, and Jason Ninos, and of course all of them are here. We also have 3 candidates for 1 3-year term as member of the select board. The 3 candidates are David Clay, Malik Hammond, and Ted Wisniewski, and we have Malik and Ted are at the table here. The first order of business is that each of the candidates who are here tonight have an opportunity to introduce themselves. I would ask that they each spend no more than 3 minutes on this. There will be questions for the school board candidates and the select board candidates. So those folks should stay on stage after, and I think that's everybody. And our library and cemetery trustees are not here, right? So, let's start with Amy. And then, Jason and Jennifer, and then our select board candidates, maybe in that order. So, Amy?
Thank you. My name is Amy. I am the current chairman of the Plymouth Elementary School Board. I will be running, if I'm elected, this will be my third term on the school board. I enjoy it.
Amy?
Yeah.
We were gonna ask you to talk about the town clerk thing
Oh,
first,
yeah, of
if that's
course.
okay.
Yes, I do multiple things,
Well,
so,
my
okay.
mistake, my mistake.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. So I'm Amy. I'm the current town clerk. Yep. I enjoy my job very much. I'm grateful to work for the town. I think I'm doing a great job. I just became the town clerk on December 28th. I was sworn in. And then I had to run a presidential primary, which I've never done before. So everyone voted. Everyone said I did a great job. So, you know, I'm enjoying my job in the town. I love Plymouth. I went to school here. I was married here. I had my first child here, my second child here. After I graduated from Plymouth State, I knew this is where I wanted to raise my family. So I'm grateful to live here. And I love my job as a town clerk. So I hope you vote for me.
Amy, and following up on that, I was asked to ask you
Yeah.
about your preparation and readiness to handle the election that's coming up. So we're gonna have, well, we have the town election, which is relatively simple, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
then we've also got the November election coming up, which is probably going to be a pretty big undertaking.
Yes, and there is a lot of preparation that happens behind the scenes for an election. We have to count all the ballots before they come in. We have to make sure that we have all of the supplies, that everything with the Secretary of State that they need up is up. We have a worksheet, you know, a checklist essentially that we go through to make sure that everything's good. And then the Attorney General gives us a checklist of everything that is required for an election that needs to happen at the election. So they came to the primary in January and we passed with flying colors. Luckily, we have fantastic volunteers that have been doing it for a very long time. So I'm so grateful, first and foremost, to all the volunteers who helped me with my first one. I thought it was a success. I learned a ton. I now know from the primary what I want to do different come November. So there's always the ways that you can improve anything. And so I'm just learning and trying to do my
Does the
best.
state
Yeah.
give you any training or education on that?
No.
On the process?
Absolutely not. So there is training webinars that I watched. There's several different ones that I watched for the election, prior to the election, but they're mostly about, you know, counting ballots and how to properly secure the boxes and, you know, how to store stuff and what this form is for and that form is for. So it's really a learn as you go type of job. It's okay, Dick. I forgive you. So hopefully as I become the town clerk, I will go to more training. My plan is to attend, there's an institute that they have at Plymouth State every year. So my plan is to attend that institute so that I can learn. And anytime there's an opportunity for me to gain knowledge from other clerks, I certainly take as much as I can. But it's really a
And
learn as you go.
Sort of a question I'm making up on the fly here, but
Yeah,
I'm
shoot.
curious about, does anybody address, you know, how you handle some sort of disruption or controversy in the course of an
Yeah,
election?
so there certainly is trainings on that, but really you have a law that you have to follow. It's a law book literally this thick, and a manual this thick. So at the end of the day, if someone's challenging something, I have to follow the law as a clerk, and that is what I do. So, yeah, but luckily Plymouth residents are really nice, and no one,
Yes.
you know.
All right, so now maybe we'll just stick with you and you can address the school board thing while we're at it.
All right.
But you don't have to repeat yourself, of course,
Okay,
on that.
yep.
We know
So
your name now.
My name is Amy. Yeah, exactly. So I have been on the school board, like I said, this will be my third term if I'm voted in. I enjoy working on the school board so much. The reason how I got on the school board originally was I was the resident that would look at the budget, go line by line, and I would say, well, what's this for? What's that for? How come this? And when Mark Holleran was the superintendent, I met with him and I said, I walked in the office, I said, I'd like to meet with the superintendent so I can review the budget because I have some questions about it. And they were like, oh, sure. So I sat down with Mark and he says, Amy, have you ever thought about running for school board? And I said, yeah, Mark, I would love to run for school board. So that is how it came to be. And I still do that. I still go line by line and look at every line item for the school budget to make sure I know where the money's going. I have a meeting with the principals to say, okay, what's this for? What's that for? And I do that for the town also still. Even though I work for the town now, I still am going through the budget to make sure that the money is being spent fiscally responsibly and I understand so that if I'm asked a question, I can speak to where the money's going. So, yeah. And I've successfully negotiated a teacher contract and a support staff contract, which is really enjoyable. So.
All right, Jason, do you want to be next?
Hello, I'm Jason Enos, and compared to Amy, I'm very much the newcomer to Plymouth. I'm running for school board, and I moved to Plymouth for school. First, what brought me out here was a job opening at Plymouth State University. But when I came out here for my interview, I stopped at the elementary school and talked with Principal Flynn at the time, and really that was the deciding factor of me moving to Plymouth was my kids who were going into kindergarten at the time and the opportunity to go to this terrific school that's here in Plymouth and compared to the schools that we had in Arizona. The reason why I'm running for school board though is I want to keep it a great school and I want to apply the knowledge I have. I'm a K-12 educator. I taught in Arizona and Washington, D.C. for 5 years. I've left the classroom and have worked in higher education and state government as an instructional designer, working with faculty members on designing curriculum and instruction. And so this is a great way for me to put my knowledge to use of, the knowledge I've gained working at various levels of the educational realm. And once again, really just for my kids to make sure they have a good, great school to continue going to. And I'm well under my green sign, so.
All right, thank you, Jason. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jen Deloge. I had something written, but now I've heard both of you, and I don't want to say any of that. So I'm Jennifer Deloge, and I moved to the Plymouth area in 1984 and have raised children here. And I have taught at Plymouth Elementary School. I taught there for 39 years. I taught 7th grade English for 39 years. I just retired in June, and I'm not ready to give it up. I'm not ready to stop advocating for our children, stop advocating for our teachers, stop advocating for our community. I love this community and I love our school. It's such a positive, wonderful place where they think about social emotional learning, where they think about academic rigor, where they think about fostering positive relationships with each other. And I just would like to continue being part of that.
Wonderful, thank you. Ted?
Hi, I'm Ted Wisniewski. Been a resident of Plymouth officially as a tax-paying resident for about 34 years.
You're not paying taxes before that?
Well, before that, I was a student. When I was a student, I wasn't, and that was like 5 years earlier than that. And one person in the room probably remembers meeting me in Introduction to Academic Community. I'm not going to mention the year. You can do math, so you can figure it out. Since graduating from Plymouth, I've been a resident of Plymouth in West Plymouth for about 12 years, and I moved closer to the center of town 12 years later, and have been there since 2004. During such time, I've also been an employee of Plymouth State College and then University. And most recently, as IT has changed at the university system, I now work for UNH. I have two wonderful daughters that went to the Plymouth schools that everybody is so proud of, and they had great experiences. My wife also works in town at Plymouth State. She works in the Sciences Building. During the last few years, I've I've started out in the town more or less on the advisory budget committee, where I got to dig into those.
Closer.
What, closer?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to dig into those budget lines in a more detailed basis with all the town departments. Since I apparently did a decent job with that, somebody suggested to me that I run for select board, which I did 3 years ago. I've had a very rewarding experience, been through a lot of interesting challenges during the last 3 years. I personally think that at this point in time, we're on a good course. I have had a lot of positive experiences with the staff at, this thing's cut out.
Switch
Yeah, I
it.
think the mic is cutting out on, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if the other one, good call.
Where'd I leave off?
So, better.
It's on, I think. Hello?
Testing.
Better?
Yeah.
This one's not working at all. Anyway, so, cut out again. I'm running for re-election this year. And I'm wondering if the mic is gonna continue to work for Malik here.
Yes,
That pretty much summarized my experience. I had a great time and looking for another 3 positive years.
thank you. Malik? Sure. You're up.
Malik Hammond. I have lived in town for just over 11 years and came out here with my wife and 2 children. Grew up in the area, learned to swim over on Little Swamp and visited my grandmother all through youth and specifically in the summertimes. Lived up in, worked in Loon Mountain, lived up there for a while before moving out west. And the whole time felt that if I was going to come back and be in New England, it would be halfway in between the lakes and the mountains of New Hampshire. And lo and behold, many years later, had the opportunity after starting a family, decided the schools in here, just like everybody else is saying, are some of the best in the country. And ours specifically is spectacular. I currently have 3 children. One was raised here completely, little Holly, she's 8, and then I have 2 others, Sophia and Gabe. Both are 12 currently, and they're Irish twins. And so I worked initially for the Common Man and Alex when we moved here. And I've more recently been blessed for the past 2 years. I have been a stay-at-home dad. And throughout my career, approximately 30 years, I was a chef by situation and a project manager in reality. So most recently, I was the culinary director, which is just a bunch of rolling project management gigs in all reality. So with that, I feel that I have knowledge to use and experiences that are helpful, and I really just want to serve the community. It's a wonderful community, obviously, as everybody up here has already attested. The schools are amazing, best place to raise a child and a family, and just want to give back some. So.
All right, thank you.
I'm not sure what's going to next.
So the next part of this is we're gonna ask these folks some questions. to get their impressions about what it is that they think they might be able to accomplish in either at the school board or, we aren't gonna ask any questions about the town clerk job. We're just gonna do the, so you're,
Got it. So my town clerk job's clear.
you're halfway
All right,
done.
perfect.
Yeah. So we're just gonna ask about, yeah, and some of these questions, what I'm gonna do, I think, is, the questions were actually written last year, and some are addressed to the, select board only, and some to the select board and school board candidates, and I think maybe unless somebody objects, I think the easiest way to do this would be just to take a select and school board question, for example, and ask everybody to answer it, and not try to split it up between the two. And I feel like the first question's already kind of been answered, but there's one here that's a little bit controversial that we asked last year, and we kind of like to get a take on that again. And the question is that concerning vouchers. In 2021, New Hampshire initiated a school voucher program, which is costing the state a huge amount of money. Vouchers are provided to families for homeschooling, charter schools, and religious schools. How do you view the impact of these so-called education freedom accounts on our public schools? Do you feel that Plymouth's property taxpayers should support the voucher program? Why not? And I think this is a question both, it's maybe more directly to the school board candidates, but it's also a selectman, or sort of a town policy question. So I think all four of you could answer that, or five, I'm sorry.
You want to start, Jason?
Yeah, and maybe just go, right left to right to left.
Yeah, yeah. Is that on?
Turn it on.
I wonder.
How about this time? There we
Yeah.
go. Sorry, it wasn't on. The school board vouchers have a place. Public education is very important, and it's a very hard job to do. And in some cases, not everyone works well in a public school. And those who need the vouchers to attend a school that's best for them, that's the least restricted environment of learning, is a benefit. I know I have personal friends who do homeschooling, and their child is a whiz. He's very gifted and very smart. And in that case, a voucher program is great for him. For students who are in special education, who need more resources, vouchers allow those parents to send their schools to a school that has the resources that student might need. I think what we need to be concerned about is what's recently happening as the New Hampshire legislature has passed an expansion of the voucher bill, raising the minimum requirement for it and expanding the program overall. And that where we need to worry about, as it does drain funds from public schools. And so, I will say vouchers have a place, but they need to be checked and, double checked to make sure that they're going to the places they need to go.
Thank you. Jen?
Sure. Honestly, Jason, I'm not sure I could have answered that any better than you just did.
Yes!
That was really well done. I too believe that vouchers have a place, but they need to be monitored. The idea, as Plymouth taxpayers in particular, where our taxes are so high, and so much of it is going to our schools, it's very hard to think that a lot of money would be drained out of our tax base and put somewhere else when a public education is available for every person. So it's a conundrum, it really is. But I think as long as it's monitored, I think that there is a place for some situations. But the idea that sometimes too, some of the best and brightest are drained from our school as well. And those are students who are providing wonderful role models, actually all of them, providing wonderful role models for our other students. So I think that we have to be very careful with school vouchers, and it needs to be watched carefully.
Thank you, Jen. Amy?
So first and foremost, I think the state should give more money to education than they do currently. That's first and foremost a problem, because I don't think it should be on the taxpayers to make up what the state should be giving us. So I think that's a major problem with the state of New Hampshire personally. I agree with you that their voucher programs are in a time and a place for certain students. I don't think it affects the Plymouth Elementary School specifically. Not that I am aware of, that we've had no students that have utilized that program currently. So I think that it's a good idea for some, but it's not affected our schools at all in the town that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Ted?
I'm not intimately familiar with this topic. However, I do recognize that a good percentage of the current tax rate, and is it just me?
Yeah, I know. That
It
microphone
might be
doesn't
the
I
like
think
you.
partially because you're a little bit closer too, so.
I see what happens with the current tax rate, and, you know, I agree with my colleagues here who argue that maybe there's a good place for it, as long as there's appropriate controls. I would really hope that if it's a serious program, the state would fund it. Because right now, as I've seen things, the state tends to push all the funding issues to the local level, and this is part of the reason why our tax rate is as high as it is today. I'm not opposed to using, you know, a voucher program, like I said, in the right circumstances.
Thank you. Mel?
So being last on this subject, it's kind of difficult to add anything new. I would first echo Amy in that the state needs to fund a little bit more in the schooling. As far as, and then I would echo what Jason said. There is a time and place, but beyond that, everything's been said. So I agree.
Okay. There's always the PSU the town gown question, which on my list here is at times the relationship between the town and the college, the university is challenging. How would you go about forging a healthy relationship between the town and the university to the extent that needs to be done? And maybe we'll go right to left this time.
That is definitely one where, yes, I do feel that PSU could contribute more fiscally, and I appreciate what Scott Wheaton has done or started to do as far as payment in lieu of taxes and whatnot. As far as the outcomes and the deliverables on that, I'm not intimately aware if there has been any deliverables as of yet. But at least the conversation has been breached, things have started in the right direction. However, at the same time, I am sensitive to the reality that the town wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't have the vibrancy that it does without PSU's contributions beyond fiscal. So holding them to, well, you really can't hold them to a fire legally regardless, but trying to hardball, strong arm them into something isn't realistic. I think you have to get creative on enticing them and showing them their what they will get in return in contributing more. That's
All right,
time's
thank
up.
you. Yep. Ted?
I'm trying to hold this so we can hear it.
Sorry.
Successful.
It's not just you.
You know, it seems to have worked out. That's a really tough question. I do know that we've made great strides in the past year or so. Scott has got regular meetings with key leadership at PSU. But the funding issue is always an interesting challenge because, you know, just like we are challenged with, you know, ever rising taxes, I know that the university has also got challenges of its own. I know this because, I work on campus. Decreasing enrollments, and it's making it more difficult for them to pay. I do happen to know that they pay for police details outside of the agreement. They pay for, I believe, ambulance services as needed. And we have been able to keep the funding that they have been giving us at $400,000 per annual. And that was probably a very difficult conversation for both the select board and the university to come to that same number. I know that they are doing things for us. We have an agreement with them to provide, I'll call it consulting through a project where they're going to be looking to help us with our marketing, our, what's the word I'm looking for? Diversification of enterprises working in the town, businesses, basically helping us with some plans. It's one of those cluster projects. They last summer when we had the construction project, they did volunteer up the parking lots next to the town hall there. Oop, I'm over time. Okay, well, they have done stuff. We've been doing a lot of work to work with them, and I think currently our town manager has done an excellent job.
And maybe that isn't really a school board question, but if any of you have any comment about how the role of the university impacts the school,
So
we could listen
I'm
to that.
grateful to have Scott Whedon have the relationship that he has, rebuilding the trust with the university. And as a former I'm a PSC alum, that's the reason I live in town. So I think it's a benefit to have the town.
And you guys don't have to
Yeah.
comment on that if you don't.
Well, I think
But-
I'd like to.
Okay, good.
Actually. Honestly, I think this is a question that has plagued this town there's a lot of property that is owned by the college that they don't have to pay property taxes on it, and I think that is upsetting to a lot of people in the town. But on the other hand, we have this wonderful resource that gives us things to do and a lot of businesses in the town. So that also, it's a conundrum. But I would like to say that as far as the elementary school is concerned, we have a nice relationship with the college. About a month ago, our 8th graders went and used their library for an entire day. When I was teaching, we were able to take our students to the medieval fair, and it was practically put on just for our students. It was fabulous. We use their ice rink. We do a lot of things with the college. So the college does give back to us, maybe not as much financially as we would like, but it does give back to us at our school level, as well as in our town level. And I think that's important to remember. But yes, it would be wonderful if we could get some more funds out of them, honestly. I think most of the people in town feel that way.
Thank you, Jen.
I'm not
Jason?
going to be the only person who doesn't answer this question.
That's what you get for sitting on the end.
I know, right? Like Malik said before, it's hard to be the last person on the question, but once again, as Jen pointed out, they do offer a lot of things that are not monetary contributions to the town. I notice as I drive across, drop off at kids to school, the crossing guard is a PSU officer and whatnot. We use the ice rink for winter program and things like that, and so there's a relationship there, and it's being worked on as everyone has pointed out with the town manager. And the other thing is, as Amy pointed out, we need more funding for education, not just for K-12, but for higher education too. New Hampshire is one of the lowest states in higher education funding, and most of the budget for PSU comes from student tuition and things like that. And so when we talk about payment in lieu of taxes and things like that, we have to be cognizant of they don't get support from the state that they absolutely need to.
Good answer.
All right, and then I have a question that's more really just for the select board candidates, and that is, I'm not sure how big of an issue this has been lately, but there was a time not too long ago when the whole issue of the development of Tenny Mountain Highway primarily, and that bringing considerable change to the town was controversial to some extent. There was the whole Lowe's thing, then sort of the Market Basket and the Riverside Landing, as it's called now, thing. And there are people that, object to that. And so I'm wondering how you feel about the tension between expanding the town and diversifying its economic base, as opposed to the idea that, we like the town the way it is and don't want it to expand outrageously.
I've got the mic.
You got it.
Well, personally, I'm in favor of expanded business development in the Tenny Mountain corridor. I would really like to see Tenny Mountain itself make a really good go for that, because that in itself could bring a lot more revenue to the town of Plymouth. If they are able to develop their plans, maybe we could get some decent development over on the 3A side that will take a little bit of the pressure off the Tenny Mountain Highway itself. And what I would say to those who don't want the development, well, you've got two things at juxtaposition with each other. You've got the taxes, which are presently skewed towards the housing side of the equation, and you've got the business development, which could help lower those taxes. You have to do something, and I'm a big fan of doing the right things for Plymouth. I don't necessarily want it to become the next Tilton, and it should be our own flavor of things. I want to make sure that we're preserving the natural resources of our town, the views. There's a lot of hiking trails that we support. I personally would love to see a hiking trail go up Tenny Mountain itself. I think that provides a great opportunity for not just the town, but for them as a business to attract more people to that area.
Good job on time. I saw the yellow. I saw the yellow this time.
Oh.
So, for the most part, I would again just echo what Ted mentioned. There's a nostalgic desire to live without cell phones and to have it when you could just ring the doorbell or the triangle for dinner and everybody would come home. But the reality is that as we grow, we're going to need to expand. We are the gateway to the mountains, to the White Mountains. And with that, we have a lot of resources in this town that make it so we don't need to go down to Tilton or some other place. Not expanding Tenny Mountain, to me, doesn't really sound feasible or realistic. It's something where, again, the tax offset, because if I imagine most of the people who would like to keep it the way it is are also most vocal about taxes, although I'm pretty vocal about taxes too. So with that, I would also echo the Tenny Mountain itself. I couldn't be more excited to see that really making a go for it. I have only been in town for 11 years, so I never had the opportunity to ski it as a child so much, but I am really heartened to see that everybody feels that this might be a little different than in years past. And that has me excited because that is an economic boom for our area, and that will only lead to a domino effect of other opportunities that come through.
Thank you. And then the next one's really for everybody, but it is, what are the important issues facing your board right now? And what would you like to see your board focus on during your term if elected? And should we start with Jason? I hate to start in the middle.
Okay, Jason.
I get the first one this time.
Yeah.
I think, one of the important issues facing this school board, or one of several important issues facing the school board is, creating a positive fostering school environment in a time where that's becoming difficult and we get more politicization and in school boards and in schools and things like that. And so really the important thing for me is making sure our school is a warm and welcoming place for all students in the school, to make sure that it stays that way, because that's becoming more and more difficult as we get more divisive in many different issues.
Thank you. Good answer.
I concur.
I love you, girl.
And to all of that, having a friendly and safe, positive environment is so important. Every time a child walks into the school, they need to feel warmth and positivity, and that is vital to all of our students. I think the next thing is literacy, and having our students leave the elementary school and the high school as inquisitive, critical thinkers is where we need to go.
I agree with
Okay.
that too.
He concurs.
Yeah. Yeah.
She concurs
Great-
too.
I do. Great answers. Great answers. I think the social, emotional importance of children is a key topic to make sure that students, again, are feeling loved and that they have the supports that they need while they're in school. And budget is always a concern for me, making sure that we are understanding where the money's going.
All right, thanks. Yeah. Ted?
Hopefully you're gonna be able to hear me.
Yeah.
So, obviously I mentioned the tax rate is something that is particularly on everyone's mind because it recently, went up. So that's one of the key things that I think that we are gonna need to pay attention to in the upcoming term. Specifically, Scott has been making an effort to do pilot agreements with those nonprofits to hopefully get some extra revenue into the coffers. We've also been working on a lot of efficiencies, trying to find savings, trying to find new ways of doing things that will basically make us more efficient. So that has been a lot of things that we've done in the last. I would hope that we would continue that, but continuing working on that mix of this town has a lot of nonprofit, non-taxable property in it. And a lot of it's not within our control. So that's a real challenge, and maybe working with the state to see if there's something that can be done to help us with that equation. Because right now, I get it, we're a hub. Everybody wants to be here. But at the same time, that's putting a lot of burden on the taxpayers of the town of Plymouth that really should be spread around the region a little bit.
Agreed. I mean, I'd love for us to help figure out how to go to Mars and the moon. But in reality, this is a select board, and we have taxes. We have a large degree of nonprofits and that don't necessarily, not just PSU, and we have infrastructure, all of which are being addressed, and we have a lot of opportunities that are exciting, as exciting as government running can be, but it is exciting as far as potential opportunities to make things run better, find efficiencies, as was already stated, and gain relationships that can potentially find creative ways for contributions outside of traditional taxes. Also bringing back, just to mention again, finding a way to bring back state funding into it that some potentially aren't being done. The outside schools or the surrounding towns bringing in their contributions. So that's about it.
All right, thank you very much. I wonder, do we have any questions that have been posed either through the TV thing or from our audience here? Yes, Joyce.
I think there are two issues that Plymouth could deal with. Yes.
You're
please.
working on.
I know.
See if I can make it work better than Ted. One issue is housing, because we have an aging population, we need to bring in young people, but we don't have enough housing here in town. And the other is the electric vehicle chargers. We have students coming into Plymouth State who can't charge their vehicles because there's such a dearth of EV chargers here in town. So I'm wondering if you could respond to either of those.
Thanks for bringing that up. As far also parking as well, which again is, I failed to mention, but again is another one that's I know is in the works. As far as EV charging as well, that is something that I'm intimately aware of. My wife works within the industry, so there's it's a definite need, and it should be in the priorities for thinking into the future. As far as specifics, there are a couple chargers at PSU specifically that are right in the Allwell Center. But as far as having chargers throughout town, it is a large project. It's not something that you can just drop a charger in. And there's a lot of grants opportunities, a lot of funding opportunities out there to help offset those costs. So putting that into the docket to be looked on is definitely good.
Thanks. Yeah, Ted?
I'm aware that we've had proposals come from the Plymouth Energy Plymouth Energy Commission to bring in electric charging stations. I believe those fell through. The original plan was to get them on Green Street, on some of those parking spots there. It's somebody's got to invest in it, and I think Town of Plymouth Select Board is certainly not opposed to that, and in fact we were quite supportive of them doing that. But ultimately, do we as taxpayers want to invest the money ourselves to put them in, or do we want to encourage free enterprise to do it for us? That's a question. We're aware that there's some grants that can make that possible, but right now I'm not aware of any that are in flight. Regarding the housing issue, I agree. That's a big challenge. I know there's some senior housing being developed out on, I'm drawing a blank on the road. Fairgrounds Road, thank you. But one of the challenges for housing for the people that we really need to bring into the region is also taxes. And right now, we're pricing some of our population that we need to bring into the region out because it's too expensive for them to live. And I understand that's an interesting dichotomy, but that's the reality of what it is. It's like if they can't afford to live here, they're not going to, but we need to bring them in at the same time. And building housing, especially right now, is extremely expensive. So how many people are you going to be able to bring in if the cheapest house you can build them is $400,000?
I just wanted to speak to the housing piece. There is a housing opportunity commission program group that has been meeting with the last year and a half. I had the opportunity to sit on a couple of those meetings before I was a full-time clerk. I was working for the planning department also. So there is work being done. a majority of the warrant articles that you'll see are pertaining to zoning changes that would encourage more opportunity for housing. So I think it's important to take a look at those warrants. I know that the planning board is working diligently to create as much as they can, and that they'll have another meeting March 7th to discuss those zoning amendments specifically.
Wonderful. Anybody else? Yes, Kathy?
I think maybe it was some 10 years ago, there was a long-range planning that was done by the town. I think it might have been your husband that was working on that, maybe. But that now was a long time ago, and as I can even hear from this conversation, there's perhaps different issues facing the town than there were 10 years ago. So, two-part question. One, first, is that long-range plan still being looked at and acted upon? And part two, are some of these issues in that plan, or do you feel maybe that there's a need to revisit?
Testing. This way doesn't work.
Poor Ted.
All right, sorry.
Nice thought.
And that one back on.
To the best of my knowledge, that long-range plan is something that's continuously being looked at. I don't know the specifics of where it is right now.
All right.
And the study is still ongoing as well
Yeah.
for the most current, I don't know the name of the group, but they're looking at all the different housing and whatnot. What's
Yeah.
that?
The master plan.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I can speak to that too, so I have a little bit of knowledge about that as well. So it was 2018 that the master plan was drafted, and that was something that the housing committee looked at and the planning and zoning board look at to make sure that the changes that are making are in conjunction with that.
All right.
It's like a little bit of everything.
No,
I
that's
know.
fine.
A little bit about a lot of
You
stuff.
know more about it than I do.
Yeah, just answered a lot of questions there.
I know.
All right, how about, I've got another one for the select board here, which is, unless there's somebody else that wants to ask a question, since I seem to have some interest in the audience. There, anybody else? Going once? This is about downtown. We asked this question before too. Do you think that, this is kind of a select board question, I think. Do you think that that we have a pretty vibrant downtown, and what do you think we can do to improve it? And I was also wondering, I know there was some talk years ago about trying to do something on Green Street by making it a through street or some such thing, which would be pretty complicated, I imagine, but I wonder if there's been any discussion of that, and how you feel generally about downtown.
How I feel generally is it's nice. It definitely could be better. I mean, if you this past weekend, I just got back from Burlington. So when I'm walking down Church Street, I'm thinking, okay, wow, they're doing it right. Now, obviously, that's a one-off, but I know there is definitely a desire to build upon and make better and bring in some new businesses. I know Scott's brought that up as well, and looking to enrich and enliven downtown. As far as everything goes in stages, and I think this past year we had the water main, which absolutely decimated most of the businesses downtown, and to see them get back onto a good foot, and then to expand. There's definitely been some expansion. I think going down to the southern end is not only viable, but would add another point of character, another nuance to our downtown, and there's definitely some things that could be done, opportunities for youth beyond just the skate park. Maybe having something, whether it be a bowling alley, a pool hall, a ping pong setup, any of those type of wholesome activities that could occupy the youth and also some of the adults too. And then down on the lower level by the amphitheater, and I'm out of time, but yes, brightening the downtown. Yes. Sorry.
I didn't see the red one, did I? Didn't
Oh yeah, she was waving.
She was waving at me.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I spend a fair amount of time downtown. Right now, the most challenging thing is it's a bumpy ride. So I am really looking forward to the downtown project being fully completed in the spring. In terms of, expanding to the southern end there, one of the challenges, obviously, the width of the street. It's kind of challenging to go down there, and I understand that some of that is going to be corrected a little bit when they finish the project off. There's not the biggest problem I think we have downtown is for a small town, it's pretty congested, especially in the middle of the day. And I wish there were something that we could realistically do about that. But that being said, generally people are polite. The businesses are very welcoming to go into. I can't complain about the treatment I have ever received in any of those downtown businesses. So I'm a big supporter of the downtown businesses. I go down probably at least twice a week. Sometimes I see Scott down there. We run into each other while we're getting the same bottle of tea. But yeah, I very much look forward to the Main Street project being fully buttoned up and us having back our nice looking roads and what have you down there. I see the yellow sign, so.
All right. I've pretty much asked my questions. I think we've got a pretty good sense of what you folks think. I wonder if maybe everybody'd like to have just a chance to wrap up or give a parting comment or.
Go first? That way we can.
Yeah.
Well, first, thanks for the opportunity. As I mentioned in the opening, I really just want to serve where I can. I think I have some things to offer, some knowledge and experience, but also just determination and who I am. As far as the town, it's a great town, so thank you for the time. Thank you for tuning in for those people online. Thank you for everybody that came, and thanks for the questions.
Thanks, Malik. Yep, nice job.
Well, this has been an exciting 3 years that I've been on the select board. I, fully appreciate everybody who came tonight and is watching online. I really loved your vote on election day. Please vote for me. No, pass that.
Well done.
Not that part.
If you really like Malik, you can vote for him.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that puts this together. I think it's a great opportunity to meet the candidates, and I always am grateful to serve the community of Plymouth as the town clerk and as a school board chair. So please vote for Amy Lee on March 12th.
I would also like to say thank you for the opportunity. I think all three of us are great candidates. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to serving Plymouth in a new way.
Last but not least, thank you all for coming and listening to us talk to a while. Mike, thank you for the questions, and all of you guys, thank you for showing up. I'd love to sit with you guys and talk about these issues. So, I moved here in 2019 and really love living in Plymouth so far. And when I had to switch jobs because my job at PSU didn't work out, my wife said, "That's fine, figure it out because we're not moving." And I understand why. This town is a great place to be. It's got some great schools, it's got some great people, and I want to contribute to that greatness. So, as Jen said, we have a lot of great candidates here, but I also hope you vote for me for Jason Enos for school board. Thank you.
Nice job. Yes, Kathy.
We have a question.
Yes.
Oh,
We have a question.
Oh my
We have
God,
a
so
question.
exciting.
Oh, an online question.
So exciting.
Oh, man.
Okay, how did the candidates feel about borrowing money in anticipation of increased tax revenue to support development?
Borrowing in anticipation of taxes.
Can you repeat it?
I know, repeat the question.
Okay. How did the candidates feel about borrowing money in anticipation of the increased tax revenue in order to support development?
That's not something we do.
I'm gonna guess,
Yeah.
you know, that what they're intending to convey to us is that we wanna, it's about borrowing money to invest in the town to support the things that they're developing. Well, I would say that's a mixed bag. Honestly, it would really be how good a development plan is it? And what is the risk to the community if it doesn't happen, you know, if the plan doesn't work? I would not want to burden the taxpayers with something that would never materialize. So, you know, that's kind of how I feel about it. I'll pass it.
I would have to agree. It's definitely a mixed bag. It's definitely dangerous in general. Is there some specific points where I think it could work? One example I can think of that I could potentially support the concept and idea would be to build a parking garage, for instance, that would have its own revenue source through payments, tickets, and then and whatnot, dailies and local annuals and whatnot. Something that is somewhat of a sure bet, and that I think could be, again, potentially something I could think that might make sense, where it would be a revenue source for the town. In general, I would be very skeptical of borrowing money. It just, not a great idea.
Actually, that's what he asked as an example, to build infrastructure.
There are few and far between infrastructure that will be a revenue source on their own, though. A parking garage. But yes, and that is one where potentially it could be a good idea, but it's all about the plan, as Ted mentioned. I mean, and where's the location, and who is it truly a town revenue source and expenditure, because who's going to be responsible for town repairs and whatnot as well. So is it something that I just, no, it's not, but it would have to be a very specific situation and circumstance.
Can I steal the mic for a moment?
Last year at town meeting, we actually approved such a thing when we voted to put in the solar array. That's an investment which will pay off for the town for years to come. So there's a good example of what they're looking for.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yes.
All right, does everybody feel that they were heard adequately?
Ted,
Anything
do you
else?
feel like you were heard adequately with the microphone?
I know.
I don't know.
And I
I
apologize
think
for the
I think
microphone.
I've been given a poison mic.
Yeah, that made it a little difficult. That's a little unfortunate.
Oh, did we get another
It
one?
was fine. And it's not, we don't have that big a crowd that anybody could hear. It's just sort of distracting, I think. Kathy?
Okay. Before we wrap up, I just want to say how proud I am to be a part of this community. And you, the way you interacted with each other, I would vote for every one of you if I could.
Yeah.
But I want to mention, Maria Sanders is a PhD at the college, and she wrote a book called Mind the Gap. And in it, she talks about what makes a community happy and joyful. And she uses Plymouth as a model for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so you have just shown that that is absolutely true, and I appreciate every one of you and commend you for running for an office to help keep us happy.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I agree. It's nice. These guys really were very kind to each other, weren't they? Even though there's some competition here, yeah, it was nice to see. It's friendly competition. All right.
Agreed.
Well, if everybody's happy, we can be adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank